Okay, so for this project, I thought it would be best to make a video with the demonstration. So my project idea is a centralized vendor risk management questionnaire, specifically for financial unions that they can use when auditing a vendor during onboarding, or if they're deciding whether to use a vendor for a new service. This will be something that will help them. And so this is more about the technical aspect of it. The actual questions part is requires a different level of research to find specifically what questions are commonly asked during this process and which questions should be included so that businesses can feel secure. However, this is not about that right now. This is more about the technical rigor aspect of it. And so for my project, I decided to build the HTML to kind of have its own web page. Considering this is a document that will be shared between business to vendor, vendor back to business, it needs to be an easily exchangeable document. That's why I thought an HTML web page would kind of be the best decision for this. So getting into it, on the left here, this is the actual HTML. On the right, this is the cascading style sheet. Kind of just has um, different fonts, different backgrounds. All of the formatting aspect is on the right, and the technical aspect is more on the left here. So at the start here, you can see that the title here is InfoSec questionnaire, standing obviously for Information Security Questionnaire. It has the proper. Oh, before I get into that, I also created my own logo for this. I named the project Security Smart, and I'll come down here. And I used Wix to make the logo. It's Security Smart, protecting businesses the new way. The new way, just because kind of seems that cybersecurity is on the rise now, and protection and privacy is kind of a newer development, it seems. Well, at least for my generation. So that's kind of why I have that as my logo there. But I use Wix to make the logo here, and I added the logo into my HTML um, using the correct keyword, obviously, and I'll demonstrate how that works a little bit later. Going down from there, so here's my heading, here's my logo, and then here starts the questions. So I used H2 header 2. I didn't want to use H1. That's just a larger header. That's why I used it for the actual title of the document. For H1, you see here, H2 back here. This is a smaller font, and this is actually an inline styling command, if you will. It doesn't use a cascading style sheet. H1, H2, H3 all defines different sizing for the fonts. So H2, I have the first question here, will the vendor provide a service or software? And then I use H3 for the answer. So you kind of have question a little bit bigger than the answer, a little bit smaller. I just thought it flows a little bit better in the document. And then you can see I go on here. H2, how will the vendor provide the service on-site or off-site? The answer, and then it goes on and on. I only have 3 here just because I don't want this this part of the showcase isn't my final project. It's not more about the questions. It's more about the formatting and the coding that goes into the web page. Um, so if you move down here, I added an HR. If you see HR, it just puts a line break in the page. BR is also page break, but HR actually puts in a line, which I thought looks a little bit nicer. And then going down here, we have OL for ordered list. And then I use H3 and top risk factors. So this will be a little bit lower in the document. And it just it's in the document to remind the company specifically what their top concerns are. And that a vendor will be able to see that too. It just has to do with whatever product or service that they're providing. If it touches their customer PII, personally identifiable information, that's a higher risk factor. They also have company PI and internal APIs. If you heard of honeypots, a lot of those honeypots will touch internal APIs. So that's why I have it as a top risk factor here. Um, and then I also added another table. This is where the grading of the vendor will actually commence. So there's the questions, top risk factors, and then there's the table that grades everything. So the caption of the table is obviously risk report, and the first row will be the vendor software, followed by the risk number 1 to 10, and then a risk grade A to F. So that's the kind of the titles for the table. And then say it's an API honeypot, as I mentioned before. So it's an API honeypot, it's touching internal APIs usually. That's the software. And then like an example of a honeypot software is like Thinks Canary. Excuse me. And then the risk number I put for that is 9, considering it's a honeypot, goes into the APIs. It's pretty important to a company. And then the risk grade I put as a B minus. So companies will be able to use this in case they have a vendor that's really not touching anything in their network. They can put like the risk grade is an A plus, considering it's not a lot of risk. If it's more of a risk, say it's like um, a cloud canary that sits on the entire, say it's an AWS cloud canary, that would be more of a D minus risk grade because that's a much higher risk to the company and a lot more questions need to go into that document because of that. And then I just have a copyright, and then I have a little hyperlink so that you can email me if you have any questions. And then here is the cascading style sheet. It just has all of the styles that I want on the document. It's not done, obviously, but I just wanted to demonstrate what I have so far. So now how does the document look? Well, I go into File Explorer, open up Vendor Risk HTML. Then this is how it looks so far. So this is the title. Here's my logo. The questions, you can see the font's bigger than the answer. That. The top risk factors you can see here. And then here's the risk report. So the vendor software, you see here the honeypot, the risk number is a 9. All of this is formatted correctly. And then if you wanted to email me, here's an email link. I'm not going to open that up right now. But yeah, so that is my project so far. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more formatting changes, both on the style sheet and on the actual HTML, which will come later once I get a little bit more research and be able to actually add these into the web page. But that's it so far. Thank you. Okay, there's one more thing I wanted to add. So I didn't really explain the style sheet to the HTML if you needed to know. So in the HTML, you can see that there's a link REL style sheet referencing a style sheet titled vendor risk.css cascading style sheet. That's this right here. So this line right here references this entire document. So all of the formatting, like the background color being gray, as you see here, the questions being blue and the answers being red. Obviously, you can see that there. And the table background color, it shows like kind of a yellowish color there. And then all the content has a Jello format. This just kind of helps all of it's just an invisible margin that you don't really see. But once I add in more aspects to this document, you'll be able to see that.